This is a courtesy announcement that the meeting is now live on YouTube and the meeting portal.
Okay, this is the call to order for the November 16th meeting of the Santa Clara County Planning Commission. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Moore.
Here.
Commissioner Levy. Commissioner Escobar.
Here.
Commissioner Rouser.
Present.
Vice Chairperson Belska is absent. Chairperson O'Donoghue.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Please stand if you're able to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. My name is Sean O'Donoghue, and I'm the chair of the Planning Commission. On behalf of the Commission, welcome to today's meeting. At this time, please turn off or mute all electronic devices, including cell phones that may interrupt the meeting. The first item on the agenda is public comment. This item is reserved for persons who wish to address the Commission on any matter within the subject jurisdiction of the Commission that is not on the agenda. The law does not permit Commission action or extended discussion of any item not on the agenda except under special circumstances. Members of the public who wish to address the Commission on a non-agendized item should request to speak at this time by giving a request to speak form to the clerk if you are in the chambers, or by using the raise hand icon if attending virtually. Are there any speakers?
We have no speakers in chambers at one moment, and there are no speakers in Zoom.
Okay, I will close public comment. Item number 4, approve the consent calendar and changes to the Commission agenda. Before we discuss the proposed 2024 meeting calendar, does staff have any comments about the calendar or anything they want to talk about?
No comments.
Okay. Are there any questions from commissioners or discussion about the calendar? Commissioner Reynolds.
I just want to raise, are we all comfortable with the 6 o'clock time versus the 1:30?
I definitely am.
Okay. I just-
And to the chair, 1:30 on Thursday is not an option. Chambers is not available. That's,
Yeah.
Commissioner Levy?
Yeah, I think it's still appropriate so that we get adequate public input.
Yeah, I agree. Are there any speakers? Not any speakers. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak about this item?
we have no speakers.
No speakers. Okay. Closing public comment. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar? Moved by Commissioner Levy.
Second, Rouser.
Second by Commissioner Rouser. Can we get a roll call vote?
Commissioner Moore.
Yes.
Commissioner Levy.
Aye.
Commissioner Escobar.
Yes.
Commissioner Rouser.
I approve.
Chairperson O'Donoghue.
Approve.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, moving along. I believe the San Martin Planning Advisory Committee meeting was canceled. Is there anybody who wishes to speak about any SIMPAC items?
Through the chair, the SIMPAC meeting was canceled, so there were no items to discuss. However, there may be the chair present and wishing to speak. It's important to just note that we didn't have any items to go over at the meeting.
Correct.
We do have one.
Did get a text that they were experiencing tech problems and couldn't hear us during this meeting here, just now.
And who couldn't hear you?
Connie Ludwig said that? But maybe because we started so late? I don't know.
The meeting is, the Zoom room is open. People are responding, so I know that's available. The meeting portal is working by Asking the back room, I've just confirmed the meeting is live on YouTube and the meeting portal. Captionings are working, so everything's good on our end.
Okay, if there's, oh, go ahead.
We do have the one speaker who
Okay.
wishes to speak, Sharon Luna. You are being unmuted. Please accept the unmute. You'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Good evening, Planning Commission. This is Sharon Luna, Chair of the SIMPAC. And I was just going to advise that our November meeting was canceled, and we hope to have one in December. Thank you.
And that concludes speakers.
Okay, great, thank you. And as you've noticed, the SIMPAC item is now earlier in the agenda on a permanent basis, so just for information. Okay, we're going to take item number 7 out of order. Item number 7 is to receive the report from Valley Water relating to the One Water Plan for Santa Clara County.
Through the chair, Lisa Mikhail. So we have with us today the Senior Water Resources Specialist from Valley Water, Brian Mendenhall. He's here to give an overview and a presentation. So this is another one of the trainings that we are providing for the Planning Commission. And so I'll go ahead and hand it over to him. I believe the clerk will be moving the presentation forward.
Yes, we will be showing it. He just needs to say next slide.
All right. Good evening. Everyone hear me okay? All right. Good evening, Chair O'Donoghue, Commissioners. Again, my name is Brian Mendenhall. I'm with Valley Water. I work in our Watershed Stream and Stewardship Division. Been there for over 20 years now, and I'm really happy to present to you this evening. I oversee what we call our One Water Plan, which is essentially an integrated water resources master plan. You may know Valley Water's mission is rather broad. We cover water supply, flood protection, and stewardship. So the idea behind this planning effort is to really pull those 3 things together and have a more comprehensive planning process all under one umbrella. Next slide. All right. So today I was thrilled to hear that you wanted a training session on One Water, and because One Water really is looking at the entire county and on a watershed basis, I think it's really appropriate to bring this topic forward and look for avenues for the county to also be engaged in this process. So today I'm going to give you a little overview of our One Water planning process, a bit of information on our flood vulnerability assessment, which is a newer process that we've embarked on, as well as share some of our priority actions that we've pulled together on a watershed basis. Next. So as you can see, what is One Water? Again, it's an integrated water resource master planning process, and the key here really is to identify priority actions moving forward. So think of this as sort of a roadmap or a long-range master plan to identify those types of projects we'll do into future years. Next. So One Water was really established as first a countywide framework, so a document that established a vision, goals, and objectives, really providing guidance for 5 watershed plans. So those watershed plans really encompass the bulk of the county. And back in 2022, our board of directors adopted the framework as well as our Coyote Creek watershed plan. As you can see on the slide, we're currently working on the Upper Pajaro and Guadalupe watersheds. We call it Upper Pajaro rather than all of Pajaro because that watershed, of course, goes much further down into San Benito County. And so we're just covering the portion within Santa Clara County. And then in short order, we'll be taking on the last 2 watersheds in the county, which are the West Valley and Lower Peninsula areas, essentially the western portions of the county. Next slide. So with One Water, we're really looking at not only just priority actions as far as individual little projects, but trying to keep in mind the overall processes, the systems that are in place when you talk about water across the county. So this slide will give you a little indication that we're really talking about everything from the hills, down through the valley, out to the bay. This particular graphic, we worked with San Francisco Estuary Institute, sort of the regional think tank in the region, and they've helped tremendously in really making this a very science-based process. So we tried to make it very data-driven, take out the guesswork, make it as objective as possible. Next. So through this process, on a watershed basis, really what we're doing is looking at the past, present, and future. So we're considering the history. A good example would be past flood events. Where did they occur? How bad were they? Looking at establishing a baseline. What are the current conditions? Analyzing the challenges around water resources, identifying those future opportunities, prioritizing those to some extent, taking action, and then, of course, monitoring and reporting out on those successes. Next. So One Water is really based, as I mentioned before, that we developed a vision, goals, and objectives. The objectives are really where the rubber meets the road. So you've got 5 key objectives: water supply, water quality, flood risk reduction, natural ecosystems, and climate change. These 5 really tell the entire story. And while Valley Water, as I mentioned, focuses on water supply, flood, and stewardship or ecosystems, those other 2 are key components as well. Next slide. So our One Water objectives are then supported by what we call our metrics. So these are our measurable objectives. Each one of them has a whole series of baseline information as well as targets. And the idea there is move from your current state to your target condition. And by doing that, we're really improving the health of the watershed and the management of our water resources. So I clearly won't go through all of these, but a couple of good examples are looking at our reservoir capacity, looking at the chemical, biological, and physical natures of water quality. When it comes to flood reduction, looking not only at the parcels that are flooding, but also looking at how do we keep people informed through emergency action plans, and paying special attention to those more vulnerable or underserved or disadvantaged communities. That's a kind of a thread you'll see throughout One Water, is really building on that environmental justice component. For natural ecosystems, we're looking at measuring the environment out there along the creeks and away from the creeks, looking at things like fish barriers and wildlife corridor enhancements, really just trying to get a better sense of how is the watershed doing, not just for people, but for the critters as well. And then for climate change, that really applies to all other elements of One Water, but we are specifically looking at things like green stormwater infrastructure, sea level rise, critical facilities that are subject to those even bigger flood events. And so those are a few examples. Next slide. So now I'll talk just a little bit about our flood vulnerability assessment. Next slide. So in the past, we've traditionally looked at flooding, and everyone's probably familiar with FEMA, and you look at what we call a 100-year flood. So it's a 1% chance of an area flooding in a given year. And that's a good model. You look at things like cost of damages. How expensive is it going to be for someone to repair or replace a residence or business if it's damaged by flooding? Those are good metrics. However, they don't unilaterally apply, and they're not necessarily very equitable. So what we've done is we've tried to expand that process, that assessment, and we've broken this up moving forward into physical, statistical, and social vulnerability parameters. So for physical, we're not just looking at, okay, is something subject to a 100-year flood, but we're looking at how deep would the flooding be and how fast would the flood waters be. We're using the 25-year flood event as our standard instead of 100, which means there's a 4% chance of that happening in a year. Much more likely. A good frame of reference would be in 2017, the Coyote Creek flooding was roughly a 20 to 25-year flood event. So that gives you an idea of, okay, that was pretty bad. We all know it was pretty bad. So that's the kind of thing we're planning for, at least in the interim. Statistical hazards are things like our flood information team getting out there and seeing where the flooding occurs during a heavy rainstorm. Looking at historical flooding. We have maps back to at least the 50s that show the various places where things have flooded time and time again. and we're trying to reduce that number, of course. And then social vulnerability is looking at tools like CalEnviroscreen, an EPA tool, the county's area median income, census data, to really look at what areas are most susceptible or have the hardest time recovering from a flood potentially. So we add all of these up. Next slide. And this gives us a much more detailed picture of where flooding could occur, as well as which areas we might want to prioritize if we only have so many dollars. So which ones do we want to do first? So here you get more of a visual of that physical plus the statistical and social, and how that gives you a combined vulnerability map. If you kind of focus in on the middle of the map, you'll see that some of those purple circles, those were the kind of flood hotspots. So where we knew there was particular flooding from storms. Some of I believe, the orange layer is kind of that disadvantaged community or area median income, the lower income. And so then when you start to layer those together, you can see on the right-hand map that you've got the darker orange would indicate more of those circumstances are coming in to bear. So those are the areas that you would want to focus on first if you really want to hit the areas that have the highest risk of flooding. This is the Canoas Creek area. I will note that the Upper Guadalupe River project that Valley Water is currently working on with the Army Corps of Engineers will address most of that flooding. It's going to cover the river and up the tributaries of Canoas Creek and Ross Creek. Not all the way, but a good portion of it. So rest assured, we are working on this. Okay, next slide. So now we're going to talk a little bit, this is my favorite part, the watershed priority actions. So this is really where we start to look at what are the things that we could do moving forward to really improve watershed health and our water resource management. Next slide. So as we've done all of this, we certainly did not do it in a vacuum. We had a robust stakeholder engagement process, both internally within Valley Water. We have a number of subject matter experts, everyone from engineers, biologists, planners, water quality folks, you name it. We have established a Valley Water steering committee with our executives. And then we've included a large number of external stakeholders, and I'll talk about that on the next slide. The different ways we collected information were through online surveys, virtual meetings, and some in-person workshops. Next slide. So just as an example, for the Guadalupe watershed alone, so primarily San Jose, a few of the other cities in the area, down the core of the county, if you will, we were able to find 141 different agencies just in this watershed. So we were able to take those different groups, kind of group them together in what we call cohorts. You see on the right-hand side, it's not all 11, but a good kind of smattering of the groups that we met with, environmental groups, community-based organizations, businesses, and Pajaro, a larger contingent of agriculture and farmers. And so it really showed that, we were doing our best to reach out and make sure this was a community plan, not just something that Valley Water wanted to push. Okay, next slide. And so from here, I'm going to show you a few slides that show us our actual priority actions. So to this day, we have completed our Coyote watershed plan, and we are very far along on our Upper Pajaro and Guadalupe plans. And so we're comfortable sharing kind of our draft priority actions. These are published in a report adopted by our board for Coyote. And so what you'll see here is we broke these up into current actions, short-term actions, and long-term. Current were things that we were already in design or construction. Short-term were like 0 to 10 years is kind of when we'd be working on them. And long-term was beyond that time frame. We have found 29 that we pulled together in Coyote watershed. And I will note, tried to pull together a few examples of items that are pertinent to the county specifically. So I know on Upper Penitencia Creek, for example, Valley Water, the city, and the county have a tri-party agreement. So that would allow us to partner and work together on some of the options in improving flood protection as well as some stewardship along that creek. So that's a good example. Another one you'll see on here is Osier Ponds, which of course Valley Water and the county are working together on looking for fish passage improvements. I know some of that's tied in with the Anderson Reservoir project now, but those are a couple examples. Okay, next slide. So now we'll cover Guadalupe watershed. Again, so here's a map of all of the different mappable actions that were in the watershed. Roughly half of the 55 actions we identified we could actually kind of put on a map. Some of the other ones are broader in scale. They might actually apply to the entire watershed. So you can see, though, that these are really spread out throughout the watershed. They go all the way from the upper watershed down to the bay. A couple of climate change, several ecological, quite a few flood actions, water supply, and water quality. And then I can give you some more examples on the next slide. So again, with this watershed, we broke it up into we did short, medium, long term instead of current, short, and long. So the short term is 0 to 10 years, and that means we would hope to start these projects in the next 10 years. Not every one of these would be led by Valley Water. These are what we perceive as the important things to carry out in the watershed itself. So a number of them would be led by us if it was a flood project, let's say, or a water supply project. But there are a number of things where we would need to partner with others. So let's take assessing the feasibility of a creek or a river. The South San Francisco Bay Shoreline Project, of course, is not just a Valley Water project. We're working with Coastal Conservancy and the Army Corps on that. So there are a number here that we actually do need to partner on to make them come to fruition. Next slide. So medium-term actions, just a little bit further out. We're not quite as far along on these kind of concepts. A good example here would be the Ross Creek and the Alamitos Creek planning studies. So these are areas that wouldn't necessarily be covered by that upper Guadalupe River Army Corps project. There might be some flooding kind of beyond those reaches. And so first we need to do a planning study, really see how bad it is. But we do know that there's a significant number of parcels that are at risk. And so this will get on our list of potential capital improvement projects. Next slide. And so here's just another look at how those actions actually tie back to that flood vulnerability assessment. You can see where those yellow areas are, again, kind of in the middle of the map. And those really give you an idea of, okay, are we planning these priority actions in accordance with that vulnerability assessment? You can see down toward the bottom, we've got the Alamitos Creek planning study I mentioned, and certainly it did show up as an area that is more vulnerable. Next slide. Now, I'll move through these kind of quickly. I don't want to take too much of your time this evening. But again, same kind of situation. We did the same process for the upper Pajaro River watershed, which is essentially Morgan Hill, Gilroy, and the surrounding area. We identified 45 actions for this area. Next slide. Again, we did short-term, medium-term, and long-term. For the short-term, we have things like finishing our upper Llagas flood protection project. We're actually doing some capacity restoration further down toward the county line on Lower Llagas. And we've actually identified the need for flood protection on Uvis Creek now. I will also note that in the past, even in the storms earlier this year, we were seeing flooding at 101 in Uvis and at Highway 25 at 101. And so those are on the list. And we recognize that those are things we need to work on. In some cases, it's partnering with Caltrans, but we know that there's room for improvement there, and they're certainly on the list. Next slide. Same kind of thing. We have medium actions here. In this case, we were really looking at those planning studies or asset management plans for some of the tributaries and streams, and that's a little bit further out. Okay, next. And again, the priority action kind of focus is showing how those different actions kind of look in the scheme of a landscape. So that big green, the big green kind of blob at the bottom, that's what we call the Soap Lake area. So that's really where you have Uvis Creek, Llagas Creek, Pajaro River all coming together, and it's a fairly wet area, as some of you may know. And it doesn't necessarily mean we should prevent all of that flooding. It's just the natural drainage. But we do want to make sure that any residents or any farms that are not wanting all that extra water are protected. So that's one of those areas where we do need to have some additional conversations. And it's also a conversation with the Pajaro Flood Management Agency and working with Mark Strudley down in that area to make sure that this water isn't moving downstream further and creating problems in the town of Pajaro and some of those areas where we've heard the news is quite terrible in the last set of storms. Okay, next slide. So our next steps are to incorporate any feedback we might hear from you this evening. We are doing one more run to a couple of our committees at Valley Water, including our Ag Water Committee and our Environmental Water Resource Committee. We'll be finalizing these plans and taking it to our Board of Directors roughly the late February, early March timeframe. And we have already started working on our last two plans, starting to gather some of that information. So with that, I will end, and I'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you again for inviting us this evening.
Thank you for that presentation with about the county's most valuable resource, water. I know I appreciate the cell phone notification when our local reservoir is about to spill over or they turn on the valve, and that's a lot of water that comes down. I just have a question. How does Valley Water help private landowners clean up debris in creeks and waterways that run through private property? I've heard that it's very difficult for private landowners to get rid of the storm debris and unclog culverts that could cause issues. So I was wondering if Valley Water has a program for that.
That is a great question. So I think primarily we are working on public lands, either our own property, which is, most people don't know, but Valley Water only manages about a third of the stream miles in the county, about 275 miles. Of course, we have partnerships with the county and others to deal with a large number beyond that. But the private properties do become an issue. I know that if there are, down trees from a stream, maybe it comes from our property, those are things we can work on. And a lot of times if the, storm drains or those things are related to the creek, then we can help. I think it becomes more of an issue where it's a street drain, an inlet or outlet from stormwater from the street flooding. That's where we have less that we can do. Mm-hmm. To be honest, there's what we can do by the letter of the law, and then there's, we're a public agency, we want to help if we can. So I think sometimes we get out there and we do more than perhaps we're really supposed to. But I will definitely get back to our staff and our operations and maintenance and find out exactly, how broad can that scope go, and I can get back to you.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from that. That would be great. Thank you.
Okay.
Any of the commissioners have questions?
Hi, Brian. Thanks for joining us here this evening.
Thank you.
That was an incredible amount of information, trying to look at all those priorities and make sense of it. Sort of drinking out of a fire hose. So I'd love to get a copy of that. I think I probably may already have a copy of that report, but yeah, and it's online, I'm sure. Because I'd really like to take a closer look at those priorities. There was one term there I didn't recognize, CRAM scores. Well, what are CRAM scores?
I am happy to describe that. And I didn't mention it because it is rather complicated, but a CRAM score is there is a monitoring or a study methodology called the California Rapid Assessment Methodology, or CRAM for short. It essentially means you're going out in the field and you're doing assessments with a number of different parameters. It's actually, without getting too detailed, the CRAM score is made up of 4 different attributes. So there's 4 components that make up the index score, which is the one number at the end. Essentially, all of them are valuable. The attribute scores of the breakdown is actually more useful. It's things like the buffer of the stream, like what quality is the buffer. Another would be how much vegetation is there, what % cover perhaps. So it's things like that. And what you do is you do a random stratified sample. So you're picking spots all over the watershed, and then you're running this set of analysis to figure out, you extrapolate from those points, what is the health of the watershed, essentially. And so we do this about every 10 to 15 years. So Coyote has now done it twice. So we did a reassessment, we called it, and Guadalupe just did the reassessment in the last year. So we have 2 sets of numbers for Guad. And what that allows us to say, in the first assessment, you tell us what is it like. In the second one, you say, okay, did it get better or worse? Mm-hmm. And obviously, we're looking for better. Absolutely. And the numbers are still coming out, so I can't really tell you. I would say I believe they're about flat. They're not a whole lot worse. They're not a whole lot better, which means we've got a lot of good work to do still.
Okay, and use those numbers for prioritizing too, areas that potentially need a lot of help but aren't all that expensive to fix up, and
We definitely build it into, when I mentioned the metrics earlier, several of the metrics are based on CRAM. So we are using those as a gauge. If a project is going to move the dial a great amount, then that's something you'd want to do sooner than later, right?
Yeah, I really appreciate the strategy you're using in developing this plan. I noticed when I've gone through, looking through all those priorities, that a lot of them had to do with habitat, water quality, infrastructure. I didn't see much in the way of supply.
And a good observation. The primary reason for that is Valley Water has its own water supply master plan. It's kind of a tried and true method. It's been working great for decades. So essentially what we did is we pulled in their priorities, so we weren't reinventing the wheel. So we just kind of pull their priorities in directly. And if there is a nexus with the watersheds, in-stream recharge or maybe our groundwater recharge ponds, or if it's near a stream, maybe there's something we can do between the two. But generally, we refer to the water supply master plan for the really infrastructure-heavy stuff like water treatment plants, pipelines, et cetera.
All right, great. And one more comment. I really like the #1 priority on the Guadalupe watershed. I'm not sure how you're going to be able to get salmonoids over all those barriers on Los Gatos Creek. But I'm really glad to see that habitat on Los Gatos Creek is a high priority.
And I will clarify that the numbers are really just reference numbers, so it may not be #1 on the priority list, but it certainly had enough interest by stakeholders, district staff, acknowledging that those barriers are there, that we definitely want to make some progress.
Okay, great. Thanks, Brian.
Commissioner Moore?
Thank you very much for the great presentation. I was just curious, I've noticed some signage and interpretive areas around some of the creeks. I was just wondering kind of how the public education and outreach coincides with the One Water plan.
At this time, most of the signage that's already out there has been there for quite some time. But I think moving forward, we have a better idea about where certain resources exist, whether it's certain species or the need for more action by the community. So I think we'll be able to coordinate with our communications office more effectively now, and perhaps put out more targeted interpretive signs, benches, what have you. But for the most part, it's been kind of separate up until now.
Yeah, oh, okay. It's good to hear that that's in the planning stage at least, because it's just so important. There's so many people who live here who don't know, first of all, what a watershed is, let alone what watershed they live in and what the purpose and function and importance is. So the more you can do in that area, the better, I think. Yeah.
Agreed.
Any other questions from commissioners? Commissioner Rouser?
Yeah, full disclosure, I'm on the independent monitoring committee for the Safe Clean Water and Natural Flood Protection Program.
Great.
How does, and we just had our second annual report just came out, so we're about to plow through that. How does that fit in with this particular program? And you mentioned some other things that you guys do. So this isn't all encompassing, but this is something that you're about to go to the board of directors and get approval for. And so how does it compare to the other one, and kind of what are the funding mechanisms that will provide this? That's the first question. And then the second question is, you mentioned the flooding on Highway 25, and that is sort of the worst that I've seen it. And so I was just wondering, sort of why all of a sudden now was it so bad, or is that just the rain just hit in that basin and just funneled through there more than, because every storm is different, obviously, where rain gets dumped, Mm-hmm. And then the third question is, what's your prediction on rainfall for this year?
Okay. All right. So with Safe Clean Water, and full disclosure for me, I worked on Measure S significantly and actually managed our internal grant programs under the old one, the Clean Safe Creek. So I'm very familiar with the programs. With the current program, I think there is a lot of overlap, but I really see Safe Clean Water as more of the funding mechanism for these types of priorities. So most of the things in there have already been sort of laid out as these are the projects we have to do under Safe Clean Water, right? But some of them have a little wiggle room. So you're familiar, so I'll throw out Project D4, D6, some of the enhancement priorities under Safe Clean Water have room for identifying future projects still.
Right.
So that's where the two can really connect.
Okay.
There is actually a project on there, we call it D5, not a great title, that helps fund watershed planning. And so I have a little bit of funding in there to help with our One Water planning, so I'm excited about that.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely there's a lot of overlap, and I think once we get all 5 watersheds complete, what we plan to do is kind of look at all the priorities together. And at that time, it'll be easier to do a comparison with the Safe Clean Water program. And I think we'll find a tremendous amount of overlap at that point. So funding-wise, anything that we're presenting to the board isn't automatically funded. Some of the things are already in the CIP, for example. Anything new really just has to go through our normal budget process. So we'll be obviously recommending certain things and really pushing that certain things make it to the top of the list where we've, finding that the flood vulnerability analysis, for example, shows it's a real need, but it'll go through the normal funding process.
Yeah.
Highway 25, I think it really is just the storm hit at just the wrong place. As you said, those are hard to predict exactly where they're gonna kind of park, right, and stop. It was one of those atmospheric rivers, one of 12, I think they're saying, that just happened to be in the wrong spot. Luckily, I don't think there were any deaths, but certainly a lot of inconvenience. And then, yeah, I think I probably know the same rainfall information as you, unfortunately. They're calling it an El Nino, and we thought we were going to get a lot of rain this week, and it just finally got here last night, I think. So I think we're all up for, it's kind of a guessing game. What I will say, though, is we've really we've ramped up our efforts to keep the community involved. We have 31 different flood forecast points now, so on our reservoirs and streams to really, they're not only gauges, but they're really the things that help us forecast. And we're looking to add a few more as well. So we want to really have as robust of a system as we can to get out there and monitor. So I think that's where we are.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, Brian. I look forward to hearing back from you, and I would also like to get a copy of the presentation if that's possible. That was a really good presentation.
Of course, yeah, if you don't have it already, I'll check in with Peggy and we'll get you a copy.
Is it? Okay.
The presentation is already available on the meeting portal.
Got it, okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
And through the chair, just again, like to thank Brian for making time available today to be here and give us a wonderful training. So thank you, Brian.
And to the chair, we do not have any speakers on this item.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 8. Item number 8 is to receive report from the Office of County Counsel relating to the Levine Act.
We going back to 6?
We're
We will.
going to 6 after 8. Yeah.
And through the chair, again, Lisa McCall, we have with us today, welcoming back Assistant County Counsel Elizabeth Pianka. She'll be giving a training on the Levine Act. My understanding is Planning Commission's unlikely to be triggered too often with this, but we'll give you the training. And she might need a minute to set up, or you need a minute? We'll take one quick second.
Okay.
And I'll just ask the clerk for a status because I couldn't hear anything. Is she going to present?
Yes,
or-
I was confirming with Ms. Pianka that we are going to run the presentation. They're bringing it up now, and she'll next slide it.
Let's see. Can you all hear me? Okay. Well, hello. It's been a while. While I was driving down here, I realized it's been 4 years since my last in-person Planning Commission meeting. So it's really nice to be back and to see faces and some new faces. So my name is Elizabeth Pianca. I'm an assistant county counsel, and I'm here this evening to give a short training on the Levine Act. So why don't we go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So the Levine Act is part of the Political Reform Act, and it prohibits public officers from participating in certain decisions based on campaign contributions. And it's important just to kind of stop right at that point. The Levine Act applies to public officers who accept campaign contributions, who may have campaign accounts open and may be running for office. It does not apply to public officials who are not running for office who do not receive or accept campaign contributions. The Levine Act was actually first enacted in 1982, and for many, many years it applied to appointed officials of various boards and bodies. So members of the Planning Commission have been subject to the Act since its first adoption in 1982. Most recently, last year, the governor signed into law an amendment to the Levine Act. It's called Senate Bill 1439, and it extended the application of the Levine Act from simply appointed bodies to elected bodies. So it now applies to our Board of Supervisors, it applies to city councils, and it applies to other elected bodies, for example, special district governing boards. Following the effective date of the Levine Act amendments, the Fair Political Practices Commission also adopted and updated implementing regulations to clarify some components of the Act. Next slide, please. So just stepping back, kind of the big picture of conflict of interest laws, I know that you have all participated in the AB 1234 training, but the basic principles behind the conflict of interest laws are that government officials owe a duty of loyalty to the public, and personal financial considerations should not enter into the decision-making process. So the laws are intended to prohibit or prevent self-dealing, divided loyalties, or an appearance of impropriety. And all conflict of interest laws have both disclosure and disqualification requirements. So as you may recall from your AB 1234 training, and we can go to the next slide, there are two kind of major codified conflict of interest laws. One is called Section 1090, which prohibits officers or employees from being financially interested in any contract they make or that they participate in the making of. And that has a pretty broad scope and coverage. For the most part, there's very few contracts that I can recall that have come to the Planning Commission. And so Section 1090 rarely applies to the actions of the Planning Commission. What more frequently is at issue is the Political Reform Act, and we can go to the next slide. So this is a broader conflict of interest law, and it provides that officials shall not make, participate in making, or in any way attempt to use their official position to influence a governmental decision in which they know or have reason to know they have a financial interest. And financial interest is specifically defined under the Political Reform Act. It can include interest in real property, interest in income, business investments, kind of catch-all personal finances, and also interest in gifts. Next slide, please. So the Levine Act is kind of a separate conflict of interest law. As I mentioned at the beginning, it applies specifically to campaign contributions, which the other kind of areas of the Political Reform Act do not apply to. And it provides that while a proceeding involving a license, permit, or other entitlement for use is pending, and for 12 months following the date a final decision is rendered in the proceeding, an officer of an agency shall not accept, solicit, or direct a contribution of more than $250 from any party or any participant if the officer knows or has reason to know that the participant has a financial interest, or from a party or participant's agent. So there's a lot of kind of detail in that requirement, and we'll kind of get into it in the next few slides. So next slide, please. So why is this relevant to the Planning Commission? So a proceeding is defined as a license, permit, or other entitlement for use. It includes all business, professional, trade, and land use licenses and permits, and all other entitlements for use, including all entitlements for land use, all contracts other than those that are competitively bid, labor or personal employment contracts, and all franchises. It specifically applies to the discretionary permits that the Planning Commission considers and takes action on, including use permits, architectural and site approval, grading approvals to the extent that they are appealed to the Planning Commission. So many of the discretionary permits that the Planning Commission considers qualify as a license, permit, or other entitlement of use. And so those actions are considered proceedings when they're before the Planning Commission. Next slide, please. So the Act kind of has some limitations as to when it applies. An officer cannot accept, solicit, or direct a contribution of more than $250 while a proceeding is pending before the legislative body and for 12 months following the date a final decision is made in the proceeding. In addition, the Act provides that an officer must not take part in a decision if a contribution was received in the 12 months prior to the decision and did not return the contribution compliant with the statutory and regulatory timelines. And a contribution for purposes of the Act includes contributions to candidates and committees in federal, state, or local elections. An important component about the Act is that it looks at knowledge that an officer has about a proceeding. So a proceeding is considered pending before a legislative body, either when the officer is notified of the agenda for a meeting, or when the officer becomes aware that a particular item, a license, permit, or other entitlement for use is going to be heard by the legislative body. Usually and oftentimes it's when the agenda is posted, but sometimes it can occur prior to when the agenda is posted. Once that knowledge is received by the officer, the Levine Act prohibits acceptance of contributions of $250 or more from a party, a participant, or an agent of that proceeding. And similarly, once there is action on the item, the Levine Act also prohibits the acceptance of a contribution of $250 or more for the 12 months moving forward. So it's both a look back and a look forward limitation. So next slide, please. So contributions apply from any party or their agent or any participant or their agent if the officer knows or has reason to know that the participant has a financial interest. And we'll kind of get into a little bit more detail on what that means in the next slide. So a party is defined under the Act as a person or entity who files an application for or is the subject of a proceeding involving a license, permit, or other entitlement for use. Most frequently, for items that are coming before the Planning Commission, it would be the applicant. And a party under the Levine Act is required to disclose on what is called the record of proceeding contributions that they have made of more than $250 to an official. This is an obligation that falls on the party. In the county, given the recent amendments to the Levine Act, we have actually set up on our clerk of the board website the ability for parties and participants, to the extent they wish to disclose, to basically file an online form that is then uploaded and available for the public, for officials of legislative bodies to review. And that is a way of disclosing the contribution on the record of proceeding. Next slide, please. So under the Act, a participant is a person or entity who is not a party, but who actively supports or opposes a particular decision in a proceeding involving a license, permit, or other entitlement for use, and has a financial interest in the decision. And a person is considered actively supporting or opposing a particular decision if they lobby in person the officers or employees of an agency, if they testify before the legislative body, or if they otherwise act to influence officers in the agency. So that could also include submission of a written comment. A participant, though, is someone that has a known financial interest. So it would be someone that, in the case of the Planning Commission, a member knows or has reason to know that the participant has a financial interest in the underlying proceeding because facts have been revealed in written or oral statements during the proceeding that makes that person's financial interest apparent. So there is a knowledge requirement that is tied to the participant component. And if there is not facts in the record indicating the financial interest of the participant, there is no knowledge that a particular individual would be a participant in a proceeding. So financial interest has a very specific definition under the Act, and it is basically an interest where a person, it's going to impact either their immediate family, a business entity in which the participant has an investment interest in, real property, or a source of income. These are very similar definitions to the definitions that we use for financial interest under the Political Reform Act. Next slide, please. So in addition to the Act applying to parties and participants, it also applies to agents. And a person is an agent in a pending proceeding involving a license, permit, or other entitlement for use only if the person represents that party or participant for compensation and appears or otherwise communicates with the governing body for purposes of influencing the pending proceeding. So there is kind of an element, it's basically not just, someone that is supporting a party or participant, but is someone that is actually being paid by that party or participant to represent their interests before a legislative body in a proceeding. Next slide, please. So the consequences of noncompliance. Under the Political Reform Act, any person who knowingly or willfully violates any provision of the Act is guilty of a misdemeanor and subject to civil action that may result in fines in an amount of $5,000 per day per violation if liability is found. In addition, a fine of up to the greater of $10,000 or 3 times the amount the person failed to report properly or unlawfully contributed, expended, gave, or received may be imposed upon conviction of each violation. And importantly, as you may recall from your AB 1234 training, only a formal written advice letter from the FPPC can provide statutory immunity to prosecution under the Political Reform Act. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, given the recent amendments to the Levine Act, the county has undertaken a number of different efforts to implement the Levine Act for both our Board of Supervisors and other bodies. As you may notice on the Planning Commission agendas, there is now a notice of the Levine Act. And also we have a coding system, so we identify those items on the agenda that we believe qualify under the Levine Act. For county contracts, we have included a new term that basically discloses to the party that is the non-county entity that is a party to the contract, the Levine Act requirements. In addition, for purposes of the planning department, we've updated the master application form so that applicants are provided notice when they submit their applications of the applicability of the Levine Act. And as I mentioned, there's also online reporting and disclosure platforms for parties and participants that are available through the Clerk of the Board's website. So that's my brief overview of the Act, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any, Commissioner Levy?
Yeah, I actually have 2 questions. One is if you are a board member of a 501c3 or a 501c4, and you get an agent or a participant or an applicant donates to your organization, but you weren't the one that solicited it, would you still be responsible? Would you still have to recuse yourself from that decision?
So, okay, the microphone's still on. So if you're a board member of a 501c3 and an applicant, party, participant, or agent makes a donation to the 501c3, that is not a contribution as defined in the Levine Act. It's outside of the scope of the Levine Act. The Levine Act specifically applies to campaign contributions, and that's not defined as a campaign contribution.
Well, if it's a 501c4, that money could potentially be used as a campaign contribution.
So it would be, though, the 501c4 itself is not it's not going to be set up. While it may go to a 501c4, and the 501c4 may then make it to a campaign contribution to a candidate for office or another political committee, the donation going into the 501c4 is still, that is not considered a campaign contribution.
Great. Thank you. Yeah. The other one, I noticed that when you were talking about permits, I didn't see zoning changes or general plan changes, which I assume would apply here as well.
That's a very good question. So zoning ordinance amendments and general plan amendments that are of a general applicability are not subject to the Levine Act. The FPPC has opined where it's for a specific property. So I know from time to time there may be a general plan amendment for a specific APN or a zoning ordinance amendment for a specific APN.
All the time.
And that's usually accompanied with a use permit or some other discretionary action that would be subject to the Levine Act. But of a general nature, If it's general applicability, I'm thinking of some recent amendments to the zoning ordinance. For example, I don't think the Coyote Valley overlay zoning ordinance, because it applied to several parcels, would be subject to the Living Act. That being said, we do analyze each action on a case-by-case basis. And our office, the County Council's office, coordinates with the clerk of the board when we're preparing the Planning Commission agenda to review the items for purposes of the Living Act.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Rouser.
So, thank you for the presentation. Is there, you mentioned if it was a limited number of APNs, is there like a range? Is it like 12 or more? Or like today we're doing housing element and there's 20-something ones that are affected. So would something like this qualify, or is this broad enough where it wouldn't? And then the second question is, has this county experienced any violations under the Levine Act, and/or has this commission since '82? Has there been any reason to be concerned on that?
So on the first point, the ordinances that are broadly applicable, so that apply countywide and are of an application countywide, we do not think would be subject to the Living Act. With respect to kind of any violations, I am not aware of any violations since the implementation in 1982 of the Act. For purposes of the Planning Commission, I think that, as I noted at the beginning of the presentation, the Act is triggered when contributions are made to officials, and those officials have campaign accounts. So they may have run for office, or they may be running for office. And I'm not aware of how frequent that's happened with the Planning Commission. So hopefully that answers your question. So to the extent there are planning commissioners that have campaign accounts that are running for office, receiving contributions, then it would be something to be aware of.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you for your time.
And confirming for the chair, we have no speakers on this item.
Thank you. I was just about to ask that. Okay, moving on to item number 6, public hearing to consider and forward recommendations to the Board of Supervisors relating to amendments to the zoning ordinance regarding the housing element update for the 2023 to 2031 planning period, enacting an OS housing opportunity sites combining district, and amendments to the official zoning maps to rezone parcels to apply the OS designator, California Environmental Quality Act, Environmental Impact Report certified October 17th, 2023. And this is countywide, all districts. Does staff have a presentation?
Yes, through the chair, Lisa McKyle. So we have with us today Senior Planner Joanna Wilk, who will be giving a presentation on this item. And we also have Principal Planner Michael Meehan, myself, the Director, and County Council available for any questions that may arise. Just as a reminder, this item was brought before the Planning Commission, originally combined with the housing element and the Stanford Community Plan, as well as the EIR, or the CEQA document. And at the request of both Stanford and staff, this item was continued to this meeting. Between that time, staff has worked with Stanford at some of their comments. We've addressed several of them. It's important to note the importance of the timing on this item. So this item is required under the law for the county to officially and hopefully finalize before the board by January 31st of 2024. So we are hopeful that we can have the item moved forward. We're aiming to go to the board December 12th. With that, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Senior Planner Joanna Wilk.
Thank you. One moment as I get the presentation up. Okay. All right. Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Joanna Wilk, Senior Planner with the Department of Planning and Development. Tonight, we are presenting the zoning ordinance amendments proposed to effectuate the 2023 to 2031 housing element update. I have with me the housing element update project manager, principal planner, Michael Meehan, and he will be assisting me in answering any questions the commission may have at the end of the presentation. So by way of background, on September 28th, 2023, the Planning Commission reviewed the Housing Element Update, the Stanford Community Plan Update, and their combined CEQA document, an environmental impact report, which included a review of the subject rezonings. The proposed zoning ordinance amendments, which were required to implement the housing element, were originally to be considered with those items at the September 28th meeting. However, staff requested that they be continued to allow for ongoing discussions regarding concerns conveyed by Stanford. So on October 17th, 2023, the Board of Supervisors certified the EIR, adopted the housing element update, and the Stanford Community Plan update. The proposed zoning ordinance amendments before you today have been drafted to effectuate programs and policies from the recently adopted housing element update. It serves to promote a number of state and county policy goals. For example, increasing the overall housing supply opportunities for housing affordability to all income levels, placing housing near job centers, thereby reducing carbon emissions, promoting fair housing for all, addressing homelessness, and prioritizing infill development. Additionally, these amendments comply with state law and plan for more than 100% of their assigned RHNA units in each affordability category, such as very low income, and moderate. This is in case some of the identified sites are developed at a lower than projected density or not developed in the 8-year cycle. Lastly, the proposed amendments were revised in September in response to Stanford's concerns. The Commission's consideration of these amendments is timely, as state law requires the county to complete all such necessary rezonings to implement our 6th cycle housing element by January 31st, 2024. The proposed amendments would establish a new OS, Housing Opportunity Sites Combining District. It identifies parcels that correlate with the housing element update's housing sites inventory. The new combining district would establish a minimum number of units to be developed on each site, specifically units affordable to households with very low income and low income. It also includes objective standards and a streamlined review process for qualifying projects that meet certain conditions, namely levels of affordability. All new development proposals in the rezoned sites would be limited to multifamily or mixed-use housing and must include a specific number of very low and low-income units. Mixed-use housing proposals on the sites in urban and unincorporated areas of San Jose may include specific public-facing non-residential uses, such as retail, restaurants, banks, health clubs, and any other community benefit uses. Mixed-use residential proposals in the Stanford campus may include any non-residential use as otherwise permitted in the Stanford Community Plan and Stanford's general use permit. Regarding the minimum requirement for very low income and low income units, this approach will provide increased flexibility for developers. This is compared to a traditional inclusionary ratio, and it allows each developer to scale their project up or down in density in order to accommodate the required units. Using a traditional inclusionary percentage approach to achieve the county's RHNA obligations would require this ordinance to impose high minimum densities and high minimum ratios of affordable units, providing fewer options to the developer. This approach also demonstrates to HCD that the county is compliant with housing element law and is putting necessary policies in place to meet its RHNA obligations. The board would have discretion to modify any such counts at the request, any such unit counts at the request of a property owner and based on specific, project-specific affordable housing nexus study. The amendments also include development standards for all projects in the OS combining district. Height and setback standards for the sites in San Jose generally conform to those applied by the city to the surrounding incorporated areas. Other development standards include facade design, requirements such as common spaces, on-site laundry requirements, storage areas, balconies, etc. Any applicant may request a modification to these standards by way of a development agreement, which must be approved by the board. As required by housing element law, the proposed amendments include a streamlined ministerial permitting process available to any project that meets one of 3 different standards of affordability. These affordability standards are parallel to those found in state law under Senate Bill 35. If the prescribed affordability percentages are not met by a project, a discretionary review is required, such as a use permit or architecture and site approval, which would be required under the property's underlying base zoning district. However, regardless of the percentage of affordable units in the proposed development, at minimum, it would need to include any very low income and low income units prescribed by the ordinance. An alternative means of compliance with the affordability requirements of the OS combining district may be requested by a property owner, subject to approval and discretion by the board. Such an alternative means could include, for example, financial contributions, land dedication, off-site construction, or acquisition and rehabilitation of existing structures. As mentioned earlier, the department requested a continuance on this item in September to allow for ongoing discussion and consideration of concerns raised by Stanford representatives at the September 28th Planning Commission hearing and the October 17th board hearing. In summary, those previous concerns were, 1, that the assigned very low income and low income units are not feasible for Stanford. 2, that the proposed development standards contradicted the policy direction for ministerial approval and expedited construction. And 3, that there was not an alternative means of compliance, specifically regarding the affordability requirements. Regarding the first concern, it's important to note that the updated Stanford Community Plan, adopted by the board last month, requires Stanford to mitigate 100% of housing-related impacts from any future development. This means that Stanford will be required to construct very low income and low income units for low income Stanford employees. Moreover, the revised zoning ordinance amendments included the option for Stanford to pursue an alternative means of compliance with the affordability requirements by proposing the development of a minimum number of very low and low income units as set forth by a nexus study. To address the second concern, the zoning amendments do include a ministerial process applicable to Stanford, and they are structured to provide property owners with as much flexibility and ease of processing as feasible. And it also ensures the success and compliance of the county's housing element. Stanford representatives provided suggestions and red lines to the amendments, and many of the minor edits in the section on development standards were included in the department's revised draft. To address the third general concern conveyed by Stanford, the zoning amendments were revised to clarify and expand upon alternative means of compliance with the affordability requirements. In the revised draft, alternative means may be requested by a property owner, provided that an equivalent number of very low income and low income units are constructed as determined by a nexus study to substantiate a different number of property-specific affordability requirements. All options and proposals would require approval by the Board of Supervisors. It is important to note that for residential development on the Stanford sites, if the development is to count towards the linkage policy pursuant to the Stanford Community Plan, the nexus study shall be based on all development proposed by Stanford under a future general use permit application. So in summary, we believe that the proposed ordinance is responsive to a majority of Stanford's expressed concerns. It is our understanding that there are only 2 outstanding components that Stanford specifically objects to in the revised draft. First, it would be Stanford's preference that there be a ministerial approach to the alternative means of compliance without the need for board approval. Second, it would be Stanford's preference that the unit counts and affordability levels are not delineated in any form within the zoning ordinance, despite Stanford's ability to reduce these units through a nexus study. Now, if the commission is interested in providing more direction regarding the review process and possible tools to evaluate an alternative means request, the department offers the following. First, an inclusion of findings that guide an applicant's request and the board's evaluation of the alternative means. These findings may include A, the requirements of a nexus study if the applicant proposes a reduction in their affordable units. B, that the development of the affordable units be in a moderate, high, or highest resource opportunity area as established by the most recently adopted opportunity maps from the California Tax Credit Allocation Committee and HCD. C, that the availability of the affordable units are timely. And D, the development has adequate access to water and sewer. Second, the applicant is required to submit a preponderance of the evidence that the alternative means meets these aforementioned findings. And third, that the alternative means request requires a 4/5 vote by the board for approval. These evaluation tools are not included in the proposed zoning ordinance amendments, but they can be considered by the commission if they so choose to include them in the zoning ordinance amendments as a part of their recommendation to the board. The inclusion of the additional tools have been distributed to the commission by a supplemental report. So in conclusion, staff recommends the Planning Commission forward a favorable recommendation to the board to adopt the zoning ordinance amendments relating to the 2023-2031 housing element, and forward a favorable recommendation to the Board of Supervisors to adopt the zoning map amendments to add an OS Housing Opportunity Sites Combining District. This designation is to parcels identified as housing opportunity sites in the 2023 to 2031 housing element. Staff encourages the commission to make a recommendation at today's meeting because there is only one board meeting in January, and the state deadline for rezoning is board adoption by January 31st, 2024. This concludes staff's presentation, and department staff is available for any questions the commission may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. I'll start with a question. What happens if January 31st comes and goes and we haven't landed on a path forward here?
I could speak generally to that. Michael Meehan, Principal Planner. My understanding is that there's another suite of penalties that come into effect under housing element law. So, for example, if I recall correctly, there's a new, slightly different version of the builder's remedy that would go into effect at that time. I'm not sure if council has anything else to add to that picture.
Yeah, I know it's complicated and that there are additional penalties, but I cannot articulate what those are. I'm sorry. The laws in this area are extraordinarily complex, and not just complex, but ambiguous.
Fair enough. Thank you, Michael. Any commissioners have questions right now? Commissioner Escobar.
I have a question of staff on the affordability mandate, the 35%. Can you remind me how we got to that number? How did you arrive at 35%?
Sure. So through the chair, I'll say a couple things first, just to clarify. The way that it's currently structured with an alternative means doesn't make it a mandate. There's an alternative path to build or provide for the construction or development of those units elsewhere, and that those units may be modified through a nexus study. The other piece I'll say is that there's no requirement of 35%. That 35% is a speculative percentage using the units. So rather than take a traditional approach of using a ratio or a proportion through a required percentage, the approach that was taken under the amendments proposed here is a unit count. So if you take that unit count and you presume the lowest level of development on these sites that was analyzed under our EIR, then you get the number 35%.
If I may, through the chair, I can also supplement. I believe staff is looking at this ordinance to be helpful to a developer so that they understand what is it going to take to meet the requirements of supplying the housing. And in doing so, having a prescribed number is easier for staff, it's easier for the developer. And through our discussions with Stanford, the alternative means is, as Mr. Meehan noted, is another way to look at those numbers differently, and another way to see if those units should be supplied on the property or perhaps even in another location.
Commissioner Rouser.
Were you done, Commissioner Escobar, with it? Oh, okay. Sort of on the same lines, we did approve the inclusionary numbers for one for Stanford and one for the rest of the county. Do those numbers still apply with the feasibility studies that were conducted then? Are they appropriate for this discussion? Because now it says, as an alternative, you can provide another feasibility study, and I'm assuming those are not cheap, and so on a lot of these properties, if somebody just doesn't have the resources to be able to fund the minimum number and everything, and it sounds like this alternative process is sort of complicated, expensive, and certainly not a pure ministerial path. I'm confused as to, based on the question that she just had, the number of units that were assigned. We have a nexus study floating out there. Is that even relevant? Do we just toss that out? Because we went through all that trouble, and now are we changing the rules? We're taking the goalposts and we're sliding that.
Yeah, I can respond to that, and staff can supplement as they wish. When we did the inclusionary housing ordinance, that was a countywide analysis. Under the alternative means, it would be a project-specific nexus study. The alternate means that's in the staff recommendation is actually not that complicated. I think that the alternative recommendation is significantly more complicated than the one staff is proposing, but we wanted to provide you with an alternative. I also want to note an alternative means is not required to be part of the ordinance. Stanford's letter implies otherwise, but state law only requires an alternative means if we are requiring affordable rental housing. Our ordinance does not specify rental or owner, so the alternative means is an option. We tried to identify as many options as we could for, whether that's money that they maybe partner with an affordable housing organization to provide seed money, or identify other land, or we try to be pretty inclusive as to what alternative means that they could provide. I would also note that at the beginning of the ordinance, there's a provision that says any of the requirements or prohibitions in this ordinance, in this chapter, may be waived by the Board of Supervisors pursuant to a development agreement. So there's kind of a catch-all development agreement, which is just a contract that's negotiated between the county and the developer. So that's another avenue that doesn't have any particular requirements connected with it, and that's discretionary. There's no requirement, well, first of all, there's no requirement that we have an alternative means, and there's certainly no requirement that an alternative means must be ministerial. Virtually all planning permits are discretionary. It's highly unusual to have a ministerial permit process. Many of those are imposed by the state for like ADUs and things like that. But we try to give the Planning Commission, which makes many decisions, the decisions on use permits and things like, and ASA, things like that. We try to give the Planning Commission and the board on appeal as much discretion as possible when considering development applications, because it's really difficult to identify a suite of ministerial requirements that fit every single project. We're forced into doing that by the state for some types of projects, but it's really difficult to foresee every possible scenario that might, be presented to the county.
Right. Well, that helps answer. So the development agreement is not necessarily just on things like setback and that kind of stuff.
Correct.
But it could be the number of units and everything.
It's open-ended.
Right. So back to the original question, how did we come up with the numbers on all the different parcels for the housing? What is the rationale behind that?
Sure. So these numbers have been included and by and large have remained unchanged in every draft of the housing element going back a ways. The density developments, the density of developments and those projections were developed in some cases, for example, at Stanford, in collaboration with the university. In other cases, based off of density that the city applies, the city of San Jose, that is, to those sites. And in most cases, I think we have to take a different perspective for the larger and more exceptional sites that are intended to be developed by institutional developers, and that's where you see us diverge in terms of the presumed percentage of affordability, or really the number of units that are affordable on those sites. The San Jose sites, the smaller sites, the sites that are expected to be developed by commercial developers are by and large hewing to the inclusionary housing rate that you referenced. However, it's with those other sites, for example, Valley Medical Center, the VTA Center, Stanford, where we're really seeing a divergence from those rates. Each one of those, the unit counts that are ascribed to them were developed in different ways that were site-specific. In the absence of, and that's why I think it's a little bit complicated when we're considering the alternative means, in the absence of a GUP application from Stanford, and in the absence of the nexus study associated with that GUP, what we know is what the sites are, what the density is. We know that those sites are the most appropriate sites within the academic campus for developing affordable housing. And we have a rough sense from the prior GUP application of the scope, taken that in combination with the revised SCP policies, that's where we get the numbers.
Okay. So it was sort of an educated best guess applied parcel by parcel based on various factors. Okay.
That's correct. There's no flat percentage. There's no calculation we can bring up on the screen.
But some of them you use the nexus study, the inclusionary one, you're saying for some of the properties, the smaller properties, and you just applied that number to some of them?
Well, so you'll notice that in the ordinance provisions, there's effectively a baseline requirement of meeting the inclusionary housing. And so because we're not creating a minimum and a maximum density, which again was our intention was to create added flexibility by not saying you shall provide this minimum density and then there shall be a percentage of that density that's affordable. We're just saying these are the unit counts, meet those unit counts how you will. When it comes to those smaller parcels, you'll see dashes in the table, and that's because they're expected to only meet the inclusionary housing rate and to provide those units at whatever affordability level is appropriate.
Okay. Another question.
Through the chair, if I might just supplement a little bit as well. The approach at looking at Stanford site, the entirety of their academic campus is much greater and larger than the location of these actual housing opportunity sites. Some of the other properties that we were looking at, the -OS and the approach encumbers the entire parcel. So if you're looking at an acreage and you're looking at the capacity, what can that property sustain for development, that also ties into how we look at the numbers. So Stanford's housing opportunity sites, we worked in collaboration with them to locate those. We've also described and discussed the number and count of units. I think some of the focus is how is the distribution of those units going to be provided on those sites. But they are different, they're institutional, and their whole property is encumbered by this dash OAs. It's just small locations.
No, I understand. Help me just connect the dots then. Some of this is a nexus study based on a future GUP. To be able to, the future GUP, we said, at some point, Stanford has to provide 100% of housing for future development. If, as a scenario, if they wanted to build some of that housing right now, and no GUP has been approved yet, how would that work as far as trying to assign this stuff to, I mean, that would give them credit towards future development, right?
Through the chair, I'll go ahead and take a stab at this one. Right now, if Stanford wishes to construct additional housing with their existing GUP, they have the ability to do so. They can, and if they exceed certain numbers, they can request that exceedance before the Planning Commission. So there is a discretionary process available through their existing GUP. Alternatively, if they provide a new GUP, they can request to construct housing anywhere on their campus. Through that process as well, that's where there would be credits. The way that the policies are established right now, there is not a vehicle for credit towards a future GUP application. So I just want to make that pretty clear.
Right. But if they wanted to develop these three parcels, they can't really do a nexus study on future, because no GUP has been approved yet, so I just say
Right,
a little bit of
in order to get the credit, they would have to have a GUP application, so they would have
So
to
what
to
we
tie
are
it back to
saying
the
then is
linkage.
they cannot develop these until a new GUP is,
If they wanted to develop the housing opportunity sites with other academic uses that are allowed under their GUP, they could do a nexus study for those uses that are allowed under their existing GUP, so any remaining square footage on that existing GUP. Or if they demolished certain square footages, et cetera, they could do a nexus study on the existing remaining square footage under their existing GUP to apply to that development.
But I want, through the chair, I want to clarify something. What we're talking about today is the housing element and the ordinance. We're not going back over Stanford's, we're not presenting Stanford's, the community plan and the housing linkage policies, and that's not what we're talking about today. So we're kind of going down a different path relative to their linkage policy, the inclusionary. What we're talking about is the housing element and the ordinance that's before you, and the alternative means that we've supplied for the commission to consider relative to the assignment of the RENA allocation on the housing inventory sites that have been selected. That's what we're talking about.
I fully understand that, but what we're doing is we're putting in our zoning code stuff that is intertwined with that. And so because we went through the GUP process, it didn't finalize, and now we're assuming it will happen again at some point. This is assuming some of that, and I'm just trying to figure out is that if that doesn't happen in the next 2, 3, 4 years, then, is that, are we hamstringing those parcels during this process? Let me just move on.
Okay.
At this point.
If I could clarify real quick, I just want to make sure we're not hamstringing the Stanford can construct housing. So should Stanford desire to construct housing, whether it's on Stanford campus or off of Stanford campus, they can do so. And the only area that has this additional requirement are the housing opportunity sites, which are very small areas across the entirety of their campus. the existing GUP has provisions set forth in it that allows them to request additional housing through a process.
And then they can do,
And on the one side, we're saying you have to provide housing on campus for 100% of your future growth. And these 3 parcels, you have to provide X amount of housing. And you're telling me that's not linked in any way.
Their
They can
housing
provide
up-
the housing on those things, and if they provide, to the extent they have to provide future housing based on future growth, then they just have to find somewhere else on campus to do that.
That's essentially correct. I mean, I would maybe characterize it a little bit differently. So these are housing opportunity sites that are very methodically chosen to meet various standards, job opportunity, access to high levels of transit. They're being requested, and required by the state to identify and establish a planning process. So what the county's done is they've located these housing opportunity sites. They've established a streamlined process that an applicant can avail themselves of. They've provided, the county staff has provided an alternative way to look at that development. And Stanford is allowed to, under their existing GUP, develop other uses on those sites as well. If they wish to develop housing and get credit and the linkage and the connection, that necessitates a new GUP application.
Right. I'm just trying to wrap my head around
Sure.
it because there's
It's
a
a
lot of
lot.
moving parts here.
Yeah.
And my last question, are there any other examples where we require minimum density for any parcels in the county? Is this kind of a first thing that we're doing something new here? Or are there other times where we have said, on these specific parcels, you have to, I know we do restrictions, but to me, this seems new for us. Am I
So
correct?
through the chair, I'll defer for any additional information to the planning staff. However, we're not requiring a minimum density. Stanford particularly doesn't have a maximum density. So they're just requiring that when you develop on these parcels, you supply as part of that development these minimum number of units. So it's not supplying a minimum density or a maximum.
I may have misspoke, but a minimum number of units is still a huge investment to somebody who may be just scraping by to own the property or something. And so am I clear in that this is maybe the first time where we're requiring a minimum amount of development, call it units or whatever, on parcels through the zoning ordinance? This is
As it relates
novel.
to housing element law, yes, or housing element processes, I shouldn't speak about the law myself, but housing element processes, yes. So every jurisdiction, again, through the RENA and housing element law, is required to identify sites throughout its jurisdiction and provide a process so that you can get those units constructed. And so what staff has done is they've really tried to aim to allow that ability for everybody to be fully knowledgeable about what it takes to get those units built, especially in the locations that they're being presented. There's a lot of, again, I said, there's a methodology that goes into selecting these sites. We've spoken with those property owners. There is a desire to consider the construction of those affordable units across all of these sites. I think what's difficult maybe for Stanford is what range of those sites they're going to be required to build.
I'm not just talking about Stanford, though. I'm talking
Right.
about all the property. If I put myself in the shoes of a property owner, I mean, this is completely changing, in some ways limiting them, what these people can do with their property now.
We've had those discussions.
So as long as
Yes,
they are all fully aware of that, they have the opportunity to come here and
that's right.
give us their opinions on it. And so, but I just want to be clear in my mind that this is something new. And I know the state, in every arena cycle, is clamping down and saying you have to do more because many jurisdictions, there was no meat there. They weren't hitting it, and so now they're requiring us to do more to ensure that stuff is getting developed. So this is our answer then to that. And but this is the first time we're doing that, is that?
This is, and I think, again, it's important to note that staff has actively had discussions along the way with the property owners and at different stages. And so our previous principal planner had discussions, Michael Meehan had discussions. We've actively been communicating with each property owner where we were capable of doing it. And I don't think there's one that we missed. We spoke with all of them, I believe.
If I may, through the chair, as you'll see in that table 375-1 in the ordinance, not all of the parcels do have prescribed minimum units. Those that do are those that we've spoken with explicitly. And again, those, with the exception of Pleasant Hills, which is exceptional in a couple different ways, all of those sites are institutional developers. The other thing I'll just add to speak directly to your question is that although we don't have minimum densities or minimum numbers of units in the county, that's a fairly conventional approach for denser environments. So most cities, including San Jose, do have those because they're trying to see a certain level of development and a certain scale of development that's appropriate to that area. And so we're in an unconventional position for the county because of what you were just discussing.
Thank you, and because, I mean, just the genius in where you guys picked them in urban areas, it's great, that this kind of stuff isn't happening in the rural side of things, and so, thank you for answering those questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Rouser. Commissioner Levy.
Yes, I wanted to sort of continue with the same discussion. Like Commissioner Rouser, I'm trying to get my hands around it. It's very complex, and it's sort of a chicken and egg scenario in some respects. We have specific RENA numbers for low income and very low income that have to be equitably distributed across our sites through the county, correct? And then we have Stanford, where we have a requirement that they're going to have to mitigate all their job creation with housing. And so they have that's a requirement that we've provided. So how do we, and then there's a certain number based on your studies that these 3 opportunity sites, and we're only talking about those 3 opportunity sites within Stanford. There's a possibility there'll be a 4th or 5th, something they develop, but right now Stanford has to put it all on those 3 opportunity sites. So far, is that all correct?
Can you rephrase that, Commissioner Levy? I just want to make sure I understood the question.
Okay, so I'm just making sure the baseline's correct. So there's 3 or 4 things. One is that we have certain RENA numbers that have to be equitably distributed throughout the county. Second, we have Stanford has to mitigate all their impacts for housing. And then finally, the only properties we're looking at for Stanford for mitigating those impacts are the 3 opportunity sites.
In terms of availing themselves of the streamlined approach, that's correct. Now, if Stanford came forward and said, we would like to build units and they're, VLI and LI, we would certainly be open to having that discussion and finding the process available.
Right, but then they'd have to go through that alternative process and get the 4 supervisor votes.
Not necessarily. So under their existing GUP that they have, the 2000 GUP, there is a process to go through for additional housing. If as part of that additional housing, they chose to supply affordable units, we would process it through that. The county gets credit for its RENA on any affordable units constructed in its jurisdiction. So the housing opportunity sites and this ordinance are establishing a process for streamlined development on those specific areas and parcels. But if somebody comes forward on a parcel that's not part of our inventory and wants to develop at affordable units, we would certainly be open to that.
But then that would not reduce their requirements for those 3 opportunity sites. Those
It
requirements.
could. I don't think that we're against that.
With a 4/5 vote, it could.
Possibly, yes. That's right.
That's what we're talking about, though, is the alternative, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to reduce the numbers on those sites. And then based on sort of current development standards, that number of 35% low income or very low income would be developed, theoretically is what would be developed on those sites.
So again, I just want to be careful. I know Mr. Meehan's always careful. There's not a percentage requirement,
I know,
but
I'm
the
just saying-
unit number.
I'm
the
saying
uni-
based on expected development on those sites, that would be a likely percentage.
Yeah, I'm not sure that that's correct. Are you?
That's one of the confusions here, is that 35%.
Yeah, I think, as Mr. Meehan previously stated, there's a range of density that the housing element assumed, and Stanford's 35% came from, I believe, the low end of the density. Michael, do you want to clarify?
Sure, through the chair. There's a range of densities that were considered for these sites, and the easiest touchstone, I think, is our EIR, because that explicitly analyzes a range of densities. And that is in turn what provides the streamlining that we're looking at. And I just want to make sure we don't lose track of that, because that is what we're talking about, is what is required in order for a developer to avail themselves of the streamlining. If a property owner on one of these sites chooses to avail themselves of that streamlined provision, in which they would not have to use that secret requirement, there's a density range there. I don't have the specific dwelling units per acre at the top of my head. I can pull that up for Stanford. However, using that range, as I recall, it's approximately using that range of density evaluated under the EIR and the units that would be needed to be required in order to use that streamlined approach. I believe the affordability level would be in total 25% to 35% based on the highest density considered in the EIR to the lowest density considered in the EIR.
Okay, great, thank you. That's some clarification, but the other thing I'm sort of struggling with is the nexus component. Stanford's required to mitigate 100% of its impact, but the numbers that are applied to those opportunity sites, is there a nexus between what Stanford's proposing or what is expected to be developed in the future, and that's when you get into the new GUP? Or is this just based on best guess? Because seems like I said at the beginning, it's a chicken and egg situation where potentially you're requiring a lot more units than Stanford needs to mitigate their impact. And that's a concern, is that we're putting out numbers, and I know they're not entirely arbitrary, but they are some best guesses that may be far more than Stanford needs at this point in time. And so how do you verify that what's being requested is reasonable?
Through the chair, I just want to make sure that we're not conflating things. So there's the Stanford Community Plan that was adopted and has a set number of policies for what we desire Stanford to do under their current GUP or even under their future GUP. That's separate, although you could try to tie it to the development of housing later. This is for the housing element update and our RENA sites, and it's identifying specific parcels as housing opportunity sites and creating a streamlined process to supply housing on those sites. Now, in the future, if Stanford desired to build housing on those sites, they would need to do so by meeting the minimum unit count of very low income and low income units, plus whatever else they're allowed to do under their GUP. Or if it's part of a new application for a new GUP, they could try to get credit for those units that they would build through the linkage of the new academic square footage. So these are separate. So this is the housing, like the director said, this is the housing element zoning ordinance. This is a response to the requirements under the law to create a process.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, I'm still confused in the chicken and egg portion. Whether this is more than is necessary to mitigate Stanford's impacts, but I don't.
It's not necessarily about mitigating Stanford's impacts. It's about supplying affordable housing. there's actually an opportunity available for Stanford to make that connection back to their academic square footage through a new GUP. It's an opportunity that they have that we've established for them. Through a new GUP application, if they want to build the units and get credit through that new GUP, they can. That's different than the other sites that we have.
Yeah, I'm still not certain about this. Let me ask you another question, so a completely different subject, and that is, the goal is if they meet these standards, it becomes a ministerial project and doesn't have to go through the review, standard review process. I'm sort of confused why the number of units impacts architectural design. They're completely different things. And sometimes when you have a review process, you're reviewing more than just the number of units that are being created. You're reviewing the overall project. And so I have a difficult time with the linkage between just saying, if you build this number of units, forget the review, because the review potentially is still needed.
So that, just to
I
clarify.
know it's throwing a monkey wrench in your plans, but that's my thinking.
I'm not sure if I'm understanding, but there are prescribed objective design requirements when somebody comes to build under this ordinance any of these units, these buildings. So there's prescribed design standards. I think it's important to note that the department is also currently in the process, Stanford specific, at looking at design guidelines across the entirety of their campus, inclusive of housing opportunity site guidelines.
Such as like form zoning type concept?
That will be a component of it. That's definitely a desire. But the department did not desire to take an ordinance that allowed for the construction of housing ministerially without any control of design.
Okay.
And
Good. That's
HCD
good.
supported that.
Okay, good. All right. Commissioner Hauser.
Commissioner Rouser.
Thank you. I did have conversations with Stanford. I just want to put that on the record.
I did as well.
As did I.
I emailed, Vicky.
Great, thank you. And I also had communications with Stanford officials. Okay, so I have a question. If Stanford applied for a new GUP and there was a new housing nexus study performed, and if that housing nexus study showed that the percentage of very low and low income housing units as compared to the academic growth, et cetera, was significantly lower, like what it is now, I think 18%, would that in any way override the number of very low and low income units?
We would include it in the assessment. So when we're bringing that analysis forward before the Planning Commission and the board, we would include that as part of the process. So we would look at whether or not the nexus study that's presented as part of the GUP application substantiates a need to reduce those unit count numbers under this chapter, which is 3.75.
Okay.
We would combine it in the process
So it would be one element of
of the staff report.
Okay. And then Mr. Meehan had mentioned, if you could go into the rationale for the higher numbers as compared to other parcels elsewhere in the county. You had mentioned institutional developers, et cetera, et cetera. I just want to make sure I'm clear on why there is such a spread in terms of the very low and low income Stanford versus some of the other properties.
Sure. So through the chair, I think I don't have much more to add than what I've said previously, but that's that each parcel was looked at individually and its capacity and its appropriateness for siting affordable housing in relation to the RHNA goals. In the case of Stanford, also in relation to the expectation of SCP policies, although at the time of developing these units, quite a long time ago now, we of course didn't have a revised SCP yet. And the only exception really are the much smaller sites, which are included, which have been identified purely as an opportunity for those property owners should they pursue a higher density of development and avail themselves of this streamlined opportunity. So with the exception of those smaller parcels that you don't see having a unit count allocated to them within that table, all of those other sites, the unit counts were developed in conversation with the property owners, in consideration of the density, in consideration of the appropriateness for affordable housing, and any other factors relevant to that specific site.
Okay, yeah, because I was just thinking of the 2018 Nexus study, and then the percentages were significantly lower, right? And so is it just, regardless of that, the idea is that more very low and low-income housing could more easily be built or more appropriately be built on Stanford? Because it's a big leap between the 18 to the, or whatever, 16, 18, 35, to 35%. So I'm just trying to understand that.
There's not a clean line that we can draw for you between the 2018 Nexus study and what's before you today in the form of this housing element related zoning ordinance amendment.
Okay.
And through the chair, I just want to the studies that were done previously were also part of a GUP application that is no longer. And so staff isn't necessarily working under that. That's information we can utilize to consider, but right now it's a visionary process, right? It's an action that we have to take based again on the housing element laws. And so when we look at the differentiation between these sites on Stanford versus other sites, one of those differentiations is this is an active institutional property. It has a regional draw where it's bringing in a lot of people who are coming and going from that site. It's located next to very high opportunities of transit. It is a job performing institution. And so, from that perspective, there is a desire for the county to look at that closer and really require not necessarily require, but really propel the ability to build that housing for the lower income workers that come and go from there or live in the neighborhood. Same thing with Valley Medical. You have an area that's right next to a job producer. And so you really want to focus those sites to have a higher percentage of the affordability, as opposed to some of the smaller sites that were along Burbank. Those are a lot smaller. They're not going to pencil. They're not going to be, they're not going to make it, the term is make it pencil. They won't be able to make it economically viable to have that level or density of development for very low income and low income units. So we had to look at them different. They're not all apples to apples, for lack of a better way to phrase that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And
there is a regional draw to Stanford.
And then what consideration in terms of, I was just reading an article recently about the average cost of a subsidized affordable unit has skyrocketed recently. And so is there a factor of financial viability in terms of the more significant subsidy that would be necessary for the very low and low units?
That's an interesting topic that I think, the state legislature is looking at, and I think locally they're looking at bonds. Cart before horse is certainly happening here. They're saying supply the units, and everybody at every jurisdiction up and down the state is saying, how is this going to be paid for? So there's bond measures coming forward, whether they pass or not, and then there's legislature around this. But it is an active conversation about how to actually get those units built. I would say that the county very proactively assists in supplying housing throughout countywide. So whether it's within the city or in an unincorporated county area, we're available for any applicant to seek any possibility of funding. Mm-hmm. There is a larger bond measure coming forward, though.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Any other commissioners with questions? Okay. Yep. That's next. Okay, I'm going to open public comment. And if Stanford wants to speak first,
Yes, we do have one speaker card from Stanford, Diana Odell.
okay, we can give them 10 minutes.
I don't believe they're considered an applicant, so they would just get 2 minutes of
2
public
minutes?
comment.
Okay,
And then
that's
if the commissioners had questions, that wouldn't be counted against their 2 minutes.
Okay.
One moment.
And I'm sorry.
Yeah, we can restart the timer, sorry about that.
I'm here with my colleagues Aaron Effner and Jessica Von Bork on behalf of Stanford University. Planning successfully for housing is challenging, and we acknowledge the county's difficulty in planning for a large arena and appreciate the progress we've made in our discussions with planning staff since our September letter. However, the ordinance's affordability mandates have been and continue to be of greatest concern to the university. Our primary concerns with the mandate are that it is substantially misaligned with the needs identified by the county's 2018 Nexus study. Stanford is singled out for much higher affordability mandate than other privately owned large opportunity sites. The costs associated with this mandate make housing even more challenging to build during a time of historically high construction and financing costs. And then this unusual mandate is not required by state law and is not necessary for successful housing element compliance. So we ask that this mandate be removed from the rezoning language and the current inclusionary ordinance continue to be implemented evenly across the county. We understand the staff solutions include language that allow the university to pursue changes to the mandate involving discretionary reviews at the board level. However, this in of itself is yet another barrier to housing and introduces uncertainty, length of process, and as discussed, is only one element of the analysis that will be determined whether we would be approved for a Nexus study alternative. Stanford wants to continue to make meaningful contributions towards addressing our regional housing challenges, particularly for affordable housing. But as this ordinance is drafted, we do not see a path forward to building housing on the identified sites during this housing element cycle. So thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Any commissioners have questions? No? Okay. Any more public speakers or public comment?
We have no additional speakers in chambers. We do have one Zoom speaker, Sharon Luna. We are unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You will have 2 minutes to speak. Sharon, if you can accept the unmute.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Got it. Please know I appreciate the work of the planning department. We basically are told this change or addition to the zoning court code that the San Martin planning area would not be affected by it. However, sites of San Martin are considered urban. And with the housing element and zoning, we've also been advised that the Book B items for rural areas would not be replaced. I am concerned that with clauses for developers to use in lieu of building low or very low housing, or if a developer comes in utilizing the builder's remedy, how this will affect this whole ordinance. It is also important, and I'm sure you may think that it is controversial, but just today on the ULIT call, Supervisor Arenas pointed out that there's over 700 seasonal workers from Mexico to harvest the fields, and we should be taking care of them. And then on the news, it was stated that over 1 million students come to the United States to be educated and housed. I say this because we, the taxpayers, paying for others without grasping the real need of housing. What I look at is my property tax bill, which is over $12,000 per year for the rest of my life. This is low compared to others. People are losing their homes, and we need to do something in regard to it. Let's take a look at who's buying the homes. It was mentioned as far as with putting the cart before the horse. We need to evaluate what we're paying for and who's paying for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that concludes our speakers.
Okay, I will now close public comment and open discussion. Any discussion amongst commissioners? Commissioner Moore.
So I wanted to go back to the mandate / no mandate question here. So the Stanford representative mentioned this is a mandate not required by HCD, et cetera. And then I believe this, tell me if this is correct, the staff was saying it is not a mandate and that there are alternative paths, but those paths perhaps were not ideal in terms of difficulty and such. So could I ask appropriate staff to comment about what is a mandate, what isn't a mandate? It's a little confusing.
Sure, through the chair. I think that the easiest way to think about this, again, is to point to the goal, which is to implement our housing element and to incentivize this development. If you look at perhaps an analogy that the commission would be familiar with, the Coyote Valley overlay, the concept for many sensitive areas or areas where there's a particular public interest in a particular outcome is that there are new restrictions and there are also new benefits added to that. It's a similar structure, which is, I think, a helpful way to think about these opportunity sites. There's a give and take taking place. And although the reason why it's not a mandate is because there is a path forward to really, whether it's through a development agreement, whether it's through the alternative means request, and in many cases, differences are important between the rules that would apply to Stanford and the rules that would apply to these other sites. But in the case of Stanford, we're necessarily having to weave through the recently adopted SEP policies as well. At the end of the day, there's no requirement that these units be built. There's no mandate that construction occur. The requirement is that should a property owner desire to avail themselves of this provision through this opportunity site designation, a minimum number of units shall be provided.
Yeah, and I think it's what I'm hearing from Stanford is not necessarily the number of units, it's the very low and low income allocation and the feasibility. So I'll just dovetail to a second question, which is that HCD, of course, wants to make sure that an adopted housing element is going to be implemented, is realistic and such. And so I'm wondering if Stanford represents this as not feasible, what impact does that have, since it's such a big percentage of the units, what impact would that have on HCD potentially?
So all of our sites have strengths and weaknesses, and as we've taken every opportunity to reiterate, put in an uncomfortable position by the allocation from the state, a very large percentage of which is for very low and low income units. It's our task to demonstrate to the state that we have done everything in our ability to incentivize and realize those units, given the tools and the properties that we have available to us that are within the unincorporated areas. I think that the I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. If you could re-articulate.
Yeah,
your
it was
question.
just it's a question really, which is, for example, if Stanford representatives were to state, I don't know what the process is for communication to HC, but that they felt it was infeasible, would that influence whether this was ultimately approved or not, that's all.
Sorry.
Through the
that's-
chair.
That's right.
And I'll just supplement real quick, sorry, Mr. Meehan. The zoning ordinance is separate and apart from the housing element and its certification. So I think that that's just important to note. Additionally, staff has had those conversations with Stanford regarding the unit numbers. So those conversations were had about a year ago. And in fact, we reduced the numbers based on those conversations, and inclusive in those conversations was the idea of very low income and low income. That being said, this idea of supplying very low income and low income on Stanford campus is not new. It exists under the previous GUP and SCP. It exists under this current SCP. It continues to be the desire by the county and the Planning Commission, our department, and the Board of Supervisors to ensure that in that regional draw that Stanford is and its job creation, that we supply the correct housing for all of its employees.
Right, no, that's understood. So that's what I recall now, that the zoning ordinance is separate from the housing element itself. And if there is some elements of it that may be opposed or controversial, does that still have to gain any type of approval, though, separate from the housing element, from HCD? I'm just not familiar with the...
It does not.
It does not?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, if I could supplement, we are, however, as we've mentioned, required to adopt the rezoning pursuant to housing element law. And so I think there's kind of two components. One is under housing element law, and what HCD reviews are the programs of our housing element and how we're implementing them, one of which is these rezonings, and separately is the requirement that any parcels being rezoned in order to implement the housing element be accomplished by January 31st.
Commissioner Reiser.
Yeah, I appreciate your guys' efforts, and this whole process has been made very difficult by the state, but it's a noble goal that we have to try and provide more housing. And my question, and where I'm landing, is what if this commission were to tie Stanford's allocation of low income, those numbers, to the nexus study that does exist, because we were told that that was a valid study at the time it was presented when we voted on the inclusionary rates. If we were to tie the numbers to that study, because we basically have said most of the property owners, the smaller ones, are tied to their study, that still, the inclusionary still applies to them. Other owners have agreed to higher numbers in discussions with them, except for Stanford. So what would be the impact on the zoning if we just tied it to a known, what we consider valid nexus study? And would that still satisfy HCD? And could we move forward? Obviously, the Board of Supervisors are going to do what they're going to do no matter what. But is that a possible way forward today to do that?
If I may, through the chair, it is the prerogative of the Planning Commission, if that is your recommendation, and the staff will take that forward to the board.
Okay, but are the numbers in here in such a way where if you reduce the numbers there, they have to show up somewhere else?
Through the chair, I can try to respond to that, and in part also respond, I think, to Commissioner Moore's question, which is effectively, of course, HCD will be the determiner of whether or not we are compliant with housing element law. It's somewhat of a black box in terms of what their process is. It's never a clear percentage or unit. We have certain obligations for process, and we have certain requirements for our RENA allocation numbers, and as we've mentioned, we've planned for over 110% more than that. Now, that doesn't apply for VLI and LI, which our percentages are only 30% over in those instances. So it's speculative in terms of where that puts us in terms of the implementation of our housing element and our ability to meet our RENA goals. I will say that the percentages of our RENA that are VLI and LI are very high, and the more we chip away at any particular strategy to meet those, the requirements are very high in terms of a percentage of the whole. The tools available and the locations that are appropriate. I think something else worth considering here is the sites analysis that was conducted as part of affirmatively furthering fair housing. Part of our effort is not only to look at where it's feasible, because it's very expensive and it's not feasible in many locations for many property owners. It's also to identify where it's appropriate and where it's best suited. And so HCD will consider all of these different factors in terms of whether or not it is likely that the 3,125 units that have been assigned to the county will be achieved, roughly half of which are affordable. And so it's only our speculation really, and how can we put the county on the best possible footing going into that.
So my humble opinion is, at this point, we're in trying to move forward. I'd like to see us provide HCD with something that is grounded in some kind of methodology. And so in my mind, what I'm thinking is we either have an inclusionary policy already that we're applying, but in every other case, we have a property owner that has agreed to a higher amount. And if we go forward with that is our process, I would think, and it's a black box, but I would think that would be something that you could state, hey, that's a good faith effort. So that's where I'm leaning right now.
Commissioner Levy?
Yeah, I'm struggling with trying to thread this needle too, in that, the Nexus study that we previously did is not necessarily the same as their future development needs, which is really where the Nexus lies. We also have need to meet these RENA goals, or HCD is not going to approve our plan. And so how do you equitably distribute those? I think that Stanford's likely going to have to take more than their fair share because all the other property owners are also taking more than their fair share. But whether they're taking too much is a big question based on them saying that it's not going to pencil out with this kind of numbers, and they're going to potentially talk to HCD about it, and the plan's going to get turned down. We're sort of between a rock and a hard place in some respects with this, in that staff's doing the best possible effort to try to make the RENA numbers, and it's coming down on Stanford to help out in that regard without overburdening all the other property owners. So how do you tie a future Nexus to this, plus saying, well, you have to take a little more than that because you have to have the fair share like everybody else in the county, but not necessarily 35 units per acre, or 35 units, 35% of the development. So I'm not sure how it's done effectively. I think the direction you were going, that we need to tie Stanford's future development to some type of Nexus, is only fair. But how do you define what the real requirements is, because they have to pony up just like every other property owner in the county, and or is the current burden unfair? Stanford thinks it's unfair. We're sort of leaning that way as a commission in some respects, based on all the conversation that I'm hearing here. But I don't know where fair lies in this discussion, and how to come up with something that's going to pencil out for Stanford, get approved by HCD, and equitably distribute the units. So, and I think it's not an easy question, and that's why we're all struggling with it so much. And so, the direction you're going with some type of nexus for the future for Stanford, I think is appropriate. But I'm not sure how to fill in the rest of the, picture.
Through the chair, just to clarify, that is within the alternate, as an option for the Planning Commission. In the supplemental document that was prepared, that was an option. So that was built into the construct of the alternative, so that Stanford could avail themselves of that. And I see the director wants to.
If I may, when we're saying it, we're talking about the nexus study. We're not, the nexus study is part of the alternative
Right,
that Stanford can
exactly.
afford. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's a high bar, though. And I think that, for whether you need 4/5 vote when you're really tying it to a nexus study, is that really necessary? But again, if the nexus study comes in and the numbers are far less, Stanford's down to 15, 18%, where do we get all the rest of the units that are needed to make the arena numbers? So, like I said,
We will have to cross that bridge when we come to it.
yeah.
I mean, this is obviously a forecast. Nobody can predict what's going to happen. We just have to do our best.
Yeah, I know, and I appreciate you working really hard to do your best, and I appreciate that Stanford's saying, oh, it's a big burden for us, and
Well, I think
we have two answers, and neither one's perfect. So
through the chair, just, I think it's important to highlight again that these are small areas and locales across the entirety of their campus. So, again, there's still opportunity available for Stanford to supply housing through other available processes. So.
yeah, and maybe that's the way it can be presented, in that this number of units is really needed over the entire Stanford campus rather than the 3 opportunity sites. Or is that that's the alternative, that's going through the alternative
That's
process?
going through the alternative through the chair.
Yeah, that's the alternative process.
Which I think we would be open to that.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? Would anybody like to invite a motion?
Can you bring up the alternative process for us so we can take a look at it? Because I think we're heading down the path that we need to take a look at that and potentially see if that's is the appropriate answer.
Through the chair, what alternative process are you referring to, Commissioner Levy?
Mr. Meehan, it's the ordinance.
It's the ordinance. It's the
the
one that was
amendments,
sent
The
to us.
findings?
It was the one that was sent to us earlier today or yesterday. That
findings.
was the red line
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
I think Ms. Wilk actually if you can bring up the ordinance, it might take a minute for her to grab it. So I think through the chair, we've pulled the alternatives up. Would you like staff to walk through this?
Can you change the size of the font so we can see the entire list?
Yeah, 100.
Yeah, and these are just options, so the Planning Commission could select all, one, none? And the commission could also modify as a recommendation.
Does the commissioners want a few minutes in a recess to review this document, or?
How is this was proposed, why? Because part of my confusion earlier was part double I on here, because it's suggesting new, shall be based on development proposed by Stanford University pursuant to a Stanford General Use Permit application. So that's why I was confused. These are interconnected. We're putting in here something that is tying the two together, and that's where I struggled. And I understand it's alternative, and it wasn't in the thing, but this is what gave me the hiccups on here. And so,
If I may, through the chair, this was an attempt from staff's point of view to try to clarify. We've been having conversations with Stanford. We understand the areas, and we respectfully disagreed with some of the interpretations, some of the pain points that Stanford had. So this was our attempt to try to address our concerns, Stanford's concerns, and lay a clear path of options for consideration, right? Just similar to the confusion that the Planning Commission had about the housing linkage policy and the inventory sites that have been selected, right? Stanford has a campus that they have the ability to develop. We have a housing element that has inventory sites that are identified. Yes, there is a connection, but there's not a restriction on Stanford's part that they can't build housing on their campus separate from these housing inventory sites that have been selected. This is where there's some, right? So just trying to clarify that thought process. So this was our attempt to bring some clarity for the commission to consider these options. That's where it came from. So yes, there's a tie because we're talking about Stanford's campus, but what's before us is an ordinance relative to the housing element update. And it can be confusing, but in our minds, it's not. We were trying to bring some clarity to what's availed to Stanford.
And if I could supplement, the alternative means is for all of the sites. It's not specific to Stanford. We've just created an additional consideration if we're looking at future credits through an active application under a GUP.
Commissioner, oh, go ahead.
so, okay, I still get hung up because as part of the alternative, you still have to have a nexus study that's based on a future permit application.
If I may, through the chair, look at one. Option one says the alternative means shall actually result in the development in unincorporated Santa Clara County of the minimum number of affordable units by income category listed for the relevant parcels in Table 3.75 or as determined pursuant to an affordable housing nexus study. And then that says pursuant to 2.
The only reason they're going to trigger this is they feel like they can't pencil out table 3.75-1. And so,
Through the chair, they may also just desire not to construct the units. So any developer may just come to the county and say, we desire not to construct any low-income housing on our property. And so if they choose to not do so, which is not the conversations we've been having with the majority of the developers and the property owners, if they choose to not do so, they can avail themselves of this process to look at supplying those units from these very methodically selected high opportunity areas to another high opportunity area in the unincorporated county. Because we have to make sure that we're constructing those units because they were assigned to us by the state.
okay, so what you're saying, you don't want to provide that many low-income housings on your parcel, but you can get into an agreement and help somebody else provide them somewhere else within the county, subject to all these things here.
Potentially, and it's including but not limited to these possibilities. So we listed under the state law and in our ordinance, land dedication. Another example could be taking another building that exists and refabricating it and rehabilitating it and supplying affordable units there and funding it and getting them built.
But through the chair, but I think the question is going to be, that's going to need to be asked, is why? Low and very low income units cannot be developed on your property? Or are you saying that any applicant? Is the question it won't pencil out, or is the question we can't? Let me just finish. We can't do it. We're not going to do it. We don't want to do it. That's really the question, right? That we're not asking. It's low and very low units. We hear developers say it doesn't pencil out. So then it'll come back to the county. Where will those units be developed?
You lost me on that one. If it doesn't pencil out, then they cannot develop those properties
If I may.
without going through this alternative somehow. And this alternative basically says, if you don't want it there, that's fine, but if you can't afford it, we don't have an out for you here. You can try and get somebody to help fund it somewhere else, a grant or something, but all of these alternatives cost money.
So again, right now, through the chair, this is a process that's required under the housing element, and so we're required to designate sites throughout the county in our unincorporated jurisdictional area and provide a process to aim to get these units built, because we're required as a jurisdiction to make sure that they're supplied. In that same vein, the applicant and the property owner can ask that an alternative be considered. So we're actually being, as County Council noted, there is not a requirement to provide the alternative means, but we are providing it. There is an avenue to look at it differently. There's the development agreement avenue as well. So they're not really being required to do this. It's being sought after based on the desires of the state of California to make sure that housing at all income levels are constructed in very precise areas that are meeting, as Ms. Wilk noted in her presentation, we're looking at equality, so affirmatively furthering fair housing, job proximity, easy access to transportation, and that all levels of incomes are included in that consideration. So I'm not sure if County Council wants to supplement anything on the requirements of housing element law and how we're looking at this. There are many avenues for any property owner to seek alternatives.
Yeah, I think it would be speculative at this point to determine, to try to figure out whether a project is going to pencil or not. I think we would all agree that Stanford's in a different financial position than your average property owner. I'll leave it at that. But I don't think we can sit here all night and try to figure out whether these projects are going to pencil, but we just don't know. I mean, there's so many different factors. There's the interest rate, there's all kinds of things that could affect that, and I just don't know that that's fruitful.
And this is a planning document, right?
Yeah.
It's not a development application. It's not a request to go that far and look at what will pencil. That's not what the state has asked at all. If the state asked that, this would take a much longer time frame to conclude ultimately. So it's a visionary document.
Commissioner Levy.
Yeah, I think I have an easier time with a Rubik's Cube than this. A couple questions. How many units in excess are we, very low income and low income? What percentage over our arena requirements does this plan accommodate?
So through the chair, I'll defer to Mr. Meehan to address. I don't know if he knows exact numbers. I know he knows a percentage above. But I will also just remind the commission that every jurisdiction is required to look at additional, a buffer.
Right.
Okay.
And that's what I'm wondering. If we have, we have this discussion about it, of how developers or property owners may say, count me out. I just want to see, if we're on solid ground at this point in time.
And through the chair, if you could perhaps rephrase the question or ask, you're asking
Well,
specific.
based on that table where we're identifying the minimum number of units per parcel, if you add all those up, what percentage higher is that number than our RENA requirements for low income and very low income?
What's the buffer, Mr. Meehan?
Yeah, what's our buffer?
I see. So I could crunch some numbers, but I'll just say on the whole, as we've said, the buffer is 110% averaged across. I believe for both very low and for low income, it's 30%, which is the recommended minimum buffer.
30%, okay. Because I know we're 100% for the overall number. It was just the very low and low income I was interested in.
And through the chair, just to clarify, I think that's important. Mr. Meehan, are we correct that the 30% you noted was where the state said we wanted the buffer at 30%?
I'm not sure that it's a state
That's right.
mandate, but it is a, it might be guidance from the state, it might be guidance from ABAG who determined our RENA allocation, but it is a standard that has been huge.
So
It certainly isn't
we're
something
meeting
we
the
would be
minimum
held.
standard with 30%. And Stanford's units are about 30% of our overall, if my calculations are correct. Okay, so our buffer's limited. The other question is, what happens with the next Stanford Nexus study if they find that they only need, a quarter of the units that are being allocated on their property?
So through the chair, I think Commissioner Moore asked a similar question. Should that occur, the department would look at that Nexus study along with their GUP application, and we would take the whole project forward with that consideration. So we can't commit to anything this evening because there isn't anything to be analyzed in that capacity, but we would consider it with their application.
Through the chair, if I can just add, I think that there's a separate process. There's two processes here that are parallel. One is specific to Stanford, and it's largely outside of our control as to when they seek to develop, when they seek to submit a GUP application. The other is what's required of us for the housing element. There's a 4-year check-in period at the midway cycle of the housing element. It's certainly possible that HCD will determine that we are not sufficiently on the path to providing our units, and that if at any point we lapse below having sufficient capacity to provide all of the necessary units under RENA, we're required to identify new sites.
Okay, great. You guys sort of read my mind there. That's exactly where I was going to go. Is, we don't know what we don't know, and we really need to come back in 4 years and take a look at this, or whatever the appropriate timeline. But 4 years is is sort of the standard and what HCD is requiring.
That's correct.
All right.
Commissioner Moore, you had your light on earlier. Did you have a question? Or
Oh, no. I'll just ask one other question. The rationale for the 4/5 vote recommendation.
So I think through the chair, I can go ahead and take a stab. Given that this is a requirement that is coming down from the state, again, to identify sites where we can supply housing, to deviate from that, you want to make, that's a pretty big shift from a policy direction, and you want to make sure that it's a majority. However, if the Planning Commission feels that a majority vote is more appropriate, I think that would be an area that if the board were to consider the alternative ordinance with findings and these amended changes, if you desired to recommend that it not be the majority, I think that would be at the pleasure of the commission.
I'd actually like a couple minutes to absorb what's on the screen. So I'd like to recess for a couple minutes, and then if you could walk us through each of those 5 elements. So if we can recess for 5 minutes.
Yes, that's fine.
Yes, we'll set a timer.
Okay, I think we are all back. Will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Moore,
Here.
Commissioner Levy,
Present?
Commissioner Escobar,
Here.
Commissioner Rouser,
Present.
Chairperson O'Donohue.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay, I think we've had a few minutes to review some of the material on the screen. If planning staff could kind of walk us through that.
Sure, thank you. So I'll just introduce real quickly, again, this is just a potential alternative to really clarify the process by which the Board of Supervisors or deciding body could effectuate an alternative means. And it's important to note that in staff's preparation of these potential findings or considerations, ultimately we're making sure that we're not forgetting the foundational reason that the housing opportunity sites exist. And so it's making sure that we're still resulting in the supply of affordable housing in a location that is paramount above other locations to meet job proximity, affirmatively furthering fair housing and transit. So, and has access to services, right, like water and sewer. So that's really the crux of it, to not lose track of that if 5 years down the line, an applicant requests or a property owner requests the alternative means, to not lose sight of the reasons. So with that, I'll hand it over to Ms. Wilk, and she'll walk through describing each of these.
Sure. So at the first paragraph here shown up on the screen, where it starts discussing the alternative means of compliance, you'll see that the first red line notes that if the alternative means of compliance is to be approved by the board, it would be by a 4/5 vote. There's also a note that the proposal would include a reduction of affordable units by income category as a reduction to those number of units that were in Table 3.75-1. Next, it notes that the applicant shall submit a preponderance of evidence, of the evidence in the record, essentially showing that there's enough evidence that they will in fact be able to meet their proposed very low and low income units. There's also the list of findings, 1 through 5, shown up on the screen. So these are the items that would help guide the applicant when they're submitting their alternative means request, and also help guide the board in their consideration. Firstly is a note that there would be the requirement of the location being in the unincorporated area of Santa Clara County. Also, it notes that if they are deviating from 3.75-1, they shall submit a nexus study pursuant to 2. 2 notes that the nexus study shall meet the criteria of affordable housing nexus studies established by the planning office and approved by the Board of Supervisors. So that would be like a guiding document for the board to just ensure that the nexus study is adequate. In the second part of 2, there's the note about if Stanford wishes for their affordable units to count towards the linkage policy, then their nexus study must be based on the entire Stanford general use permit application. Third, there is a note about the location of the affordable units, which should be in the area of either a moderate high or high resource area as identified in these opportunity maps.
And I'll just pause real quick. That's very important, that particular criterion, because again, the methodology to select high opportunity sites to get your housing element certified is important. So when we're checking in again at the 4-year mark, which is a requirement under the state, if we're moving all of the units to another location and they're not meeting those standards, that could be problematic for the county.
Thank you. The fourth item is that the location of the affordable units are in an urban service area to ensure they have adequate access to water and sewer. And lastly, item 5 has to do with the timeliness of when the affordable units are available. It states that the final building permits shall be issued for any market rate housing, essentially at the similar time when the building permits will be issued for the affordable housing units. We would like to add that this is, when it comes to timing, this is something we see pretty typical in affordable housing requirements.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioner Moore.
So with if a parcel owner, Stanford, any landowner shows that, let's say it's Stanford as an example, they showed that they could meet the minimum number of very low and low income units, but not entirely in the housing opportunity sites, but they could then show another site that wasn't a housing opportunity site where that would add to and meet those requirements. Would that be feasible?
So in that case, if they are looking to meet the numbers that are noted in table 3.75, but they are looking to just develop them elsewhere, is that what you're asking? Right, so then in that case, they would still continue with the alternative means of compliance. But my understanding, and my colleagues can correct me if I am wrong, but they are not necessarily needed to provide a nexus study because they are complying with 3.75-1.
That's correct. So if somebody wanted to Ms. Wilk was correct. So if somebody wants to not contest or provide another option of unit numbers, but wants to provide them somewhere else, the alternative means still is applicable as a process.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Rauser.
Where can they provide those units, obviously within Santa Clara County, unincorporated?
Correct, unincorporated.
So that could be.
And then was it the third? So if you look at the third finding, that would be the key, is that if you're providing the units in another location, or you're paying for the units in another location, or whatever your alternative means would be, that you're providing those units in a high opportunity area, an area that has access to those high opportunities.
And can you remind me how many areas of those are within the unincorporated county that are not already covered by existing parcels?
Sure,
in the
I
same-
can assist, and if staff wants to supplement, they can. But when we were originally looking at all of our sites and selecting the inventory, there's a myriad of other sites available for meeting the standard under the maps. The maps change as well, so as new train stations are positioned or new transit is established, that's going to change the mapping. So there are a number of other potential properties available to locate units. It's not just, we just picked the highest and best ones for our housing element.
As we should.
Yes.
But if cost is an issue, we have no idea if any of these other opportunity sites are a lower cost to bring units to market, right?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of cost of construction, I'm not a developer, but in terms of all of unless there's no other issue with the site itself, there would be an even distribution of the cost constraints. So, unless you have, you wouldn't want to take these sites and go put them on a Superfund site, right? So that would be an environmentally unfriendly way to do that. So you want to make sure that the cost of construction is still viable. And I don't see that any of the alternative means impacts that. I'm not sure, did I not answer?
If I'm a developer and I can't afford on my property to have low income because of the revenue and all the increased costs and everything, and I look around and I say, there's an opportunity site where I think I can do, instead of $650,000 a unit, I can do something for $400,000 a unit. So that would make sense to build over there, and you can actually get more units, and it's still in a great spot. People will be enjoying it. We'll get people off the streets.
That would be viable. Another alternative would be to take an existing construction. So there was an existing apartment building and somebody purchased it and they want to make some of those units affordable, and that might be a less expensive alternative for you as the original property owner with those numbers.
Okay, so to do that, we have to go to the alternative path, or does the
Correct.
original one allow for that?
The original ordinance still allows for the ability for that alternative, yes. You do not necessarily have to implement this alternative ordinance with the findings to achieve that same outcome.
And so all we were trying to do is make this more specific? That's
correct.
Why you did this?
Yes.
But on the original one, because it's not defined, it could be 3 times as complicated as this. We don't know because it's not defined.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's important in the original ordinance, there's still the discretion there. So you're able to look at whatever the variables and considerations are of that time, so 3 years out. It still offered the same possibilities of financial contributions, of land dedications, of off-site construction. It still provided that, and it was including but not limited to. So when this was crafted by staff, it was really to not pigeonhole anybody, but to really open up multiple possibilities.
Okay.
This version is just a lot more cumbersome, I would say, but explicit in the goal.
Right.
In the previous version, was it not 4/5 vote?
That there was no vote so there was that did not exist, so it would have been a majority.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a default.
This is really reminding the Planning Commission, should the board choose to add a 4/5 vote, the Planning Commission has considered that tonight, and we wouldn't have to come back before the Planning Commission for that substantive change.
Okay. Commissioner Moore.
I actually would like to make a motion, and we can talk about it. I would move to forward a favorable recommendation to the Board of Supervisors to adopt ordinance NS-1200.384, amending Appendix 1 of the County of Santa Clara Ordinance Code to adopt provisions relating to the 2023-2031 housing element. And do I need to, I would like it to include the alternative means as in this red line version, however you want to describe that. And then B, to forward a favorable recommendation to the Board of Supervisors to adopt ordinance number NS-1200.385, amending the official zoning maps maintained pursuant to section 1.2.060 of the zoning ordinance appendix 1 of the County of Santa Clara Ordinance Code to add in -OS housing opportunity sites combining district designation to parcels identified as housing opportunity sites in the 2023 to 2031 housing element.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Moore. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Levy. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Commissioner Rouser.
I would probably not vote for something with a 4/5 vote on it. I'll just put that out there. I have some other concerns. If I could just ask staff, like we did with the growth boundary, is this something that a 3/5 vote of the Board of Supervisors can change that to?
I can help.
Yes.
Yes.
I withdraw that statement then.
I actually, yeah. Does that sound like a friendly amendment? Because I'd be on board with that as well.
I'll
Apologies,
ask for-
Commissioner Levy, if you could be sure to use your microphone.
I'll ask if we could just remove that by a 4/5 vote from your proposal.
I would accept that.
I'll accept it as well.
Okay, the friendly amendment is accepted by the by Commissioner Moore and by Commissioner Levy. Any other discussion before a vote? Okay, hearing no request for discussion, will you call the vote?
Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
Commissioner Levy.
Yes.
Commissioner Escobar.
Yes.
Commissioner Rouser.
No.
And Chairperson O'Donoghue.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
Okay. All right, moving on to other business. Receive report from the chairperson. I have no report. Item number 10, any reports from commissioners? No reports from commissioners. Any report from county council?
No.
No report from county council. Any report from the planning commission secretary?
This is November, so we met in October, and I updated you on the board's action for our housing element, so I do not have anything additional. Oh, we did send it to HCD. I think I reported that last time.
Receive report from the deputy director.
I can add on to the last note. HCD has 60 days to respond, and we sent it on the 18th of October, I believe. Yes.
Okay, any report from the director?
Thank you. Just want to let the commission know that the executive team, we are looking at ways of making our processes more efficient. We have embarked on looking at closing our portal. We have been allowing applicants to submit applications electronically, and coming January, we are working on actually requiring appointments. We have been operating at one point at a 25% vacancy rate. I had come and let the commission know that we are now at 12.4%, which is good, right? Yeah. But we're looking at ways of being able to monitor and manage the workload that's coming in. We don't want to get into a situation where we're continually having a backlog of applications. And so the executive team, we have three deputy directors. We have a deputy director of development services, Michael Alvarez. He's our building official. Lisa McKyle is the deputy director for planning services. And then we have a new addition to our team. His name is Stuart Patry. He is our deputy director over administration. We are looking at ways to make our process more efficient and be able to manage our workload. One of our measures, performance measures, was that we would reduce our processing times, and we have not been able to achieve that. And so we're taking a new approach where we have to begin to monitor the work that's coming in so that we can process it out. If you'll recall, when COVID hit the nation, the county was in a very strategic place. The planning department, we had already embarked on a transformation modernization process where we were moving from FileMaker Pro into Excella. And it allowed us, we were down for about probably 3 or 4 months. And in July, we were able to allow the construction industry to begin to submit applications again. Because we had work remotely, we had stood up our electronic submittals. Our building inspectors received tablets to go out and actually do inspections out in the field. We were just able to keep moving forward. We're now at a place where we're having applications submitted 24/7. And the staff is not working 24/7. And we have mandates that applications have to be reviewed within 30 days. And so we are looking at metering this work that's coming in. So that's really the big change that's going to come in January. It hasn't been finalized. It's something we're still working on, but I wanted the commission to know, because as you're speaking with residents out in the public, you know, as you're having conversations, know that this is coming. And we will be looking at appointments for building applications and planning. There will be some land use applications and building permits like photovoltaic, re-roofs. We're identifying some applications that they still will be able to submit electronically 24/7. But those big land use applications, we're not going to mingle those. We're pulling back on that ability. That's the big news.
Great, thank you. Okay, and we are receiving correspondence about the Sergeant Ranch Quarry. And last item is adjournment. Our next meeting will be Thursday, December 14th at 6 p.m. right here.